CBS presents this program in color.
From the sun and fun capital of the world, Miami Beach, we bring you the Jackie Gleason Show.
Starring Jackie Gleason.
With Jane Keane, the June Taylor Dancers, and Sammy Spear and his orchestra.
And away we go!
How sweet it is! We are off tonight. This is my kind of crowd, I'll tell you that right now. Whoops! There he is, our orchestra leader, Sammy Spear. Take a bow, Sam. You look gorgeous. I mean, with those tails on and they fit nicely. Where did you have those made? They look like a loose tattoo. But he knows how to go. I mean it. He dresses. He's the only guy I know who wears knotty pine underwear. Beautiful. Girls, will you bring it out, please? Oh, this is the way to go. If you're gonna go, this is it. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh. Oh, well. There they go, ready for loving care. Here I am, ready for Medicare. Now that's Florida orange juice. That's got the skins in it and everything. You'd like to go this route, wouldn't you, Sam? Sam is not drinking, he's on the wagon. He had a choice, getting on the wagon or in one. You're beautiful, Sam. I want to tell you, do you feel great? I feel magnificent. On it. Miami Beach is without a doubt the world's greatest place. This is it. I mean it. I was just reading in the paper the snow is 6 feet high in New York. They can't move. They're peeking over the snow, talking to each other. Hello, Charlie. How are you? You know, I went up there a couple of weeks ago. It was really cold. And I just took a top coat with me. I didn't know. I was living down here, you know. It's beautiful at all times. Always in 85. And, all right, so it's 75 now and then, you know. But I got up there, and it was really cold. I was freezing to death, and Toots Shore told me why. I was sitting in this place, and we were having a couple of malteds, and I said, why? He said, well, here's what it is. He says, see, you've been living down in Florida for 3 years now, and your blood is getting thin, and that's why you feel cold. I said, my blood is getting thin? He says, that's right. I said, how do you like that? Finally, something's getting thin about me, and it's on the inside where nobody can see it. But throat's a little dry. But I love it down here because I'm an athletic type. Very sneaky audience. No, but I mean it. I'm the athletic type. I like to go skiing and surfboarding. for your information, I do both of them at the same time. I mean it. When I go skiing, I have to put a surfboard on each foot. I like skin diving. Incidentally, I want to give you a little tip about skin diving. Whenever you go skin diving, go the buddy system. Now, that means that when you go skin diving, you take a buddy with you. You know, in case anything goes wrong, like if a shark attacks you. You've got a 50-50 chance that the shark will eat your buddy. Always take a buddy with you. No matter what you do, take a buddy. No, but I've always been athletic. When I was a kid, I was great with the shot put. Today, I can put away a shot with the best of them, believe me. No, but I noticed that derisive laughter, you know, when I said I was athletic. Well, let me tell you something. I'm not heavy. I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I have proof. I got one of those charts, you know, that says how heavy you should be according to your height. Like if you're 5'9", you're supposed to weigh 140. If you're 5'10", 145. Well, I'm not heavy. I'm just too short. According to this chart, if I was 8.5 feet tall, I'd be the perfect weight. Besides, I went on a diet last week. It's a new thing they got now. It's a diet capsule. Now, this capsule is full of little beads. There are very small beads, and then there are little larger beads and little larger beads. There's 4 different sized beads. Now, you take this capsule, see, and in 4 hours, the first bead, the little one, explodes. And it satiates your appetite. And every 4 hours, the next larger bead explodes, you know. And there's 4 explosions during the day. Well, I wanted to stay on this diet, you know, but I can't walk around exploding all day. You just can't do it. And the other night, I was shaving, and one of those things went off. I almost cut my throat. So I gave that up, and I went on another diet. And this is pretty good, It's a liquid diet. And, no. This is a liquid diet. And what it does, it has a chemical in it. And you drink one of these little cans. It's about 150 calories a can or something like that. And you drink it, and it goes down, it releases this chemical, and it makes thousands of little sponges. Yeah, and now, you know what happens to a sponge when it saturates moisture? It swells up, you know, and it fills your stomach, and the food can't get in. You just can't eat, you know. But I licked it. I ate first, and I wouldn't let the sponges in. I remember when I was a kid, I was a little chubby then. Matter of fact, I had the mumps for 3 weeks before anybody found out. But it didn't bother me. It doesn't bother me now, especially when I was a kid. Kids, they take life as, you know, as it comes. Like I was a poor kid, and I was around during the Depression. And I, like many other people who were born during the Depression and were deprived of some things, would say, boy, if I ever have a child, they're going to have everything I never had. Well, I had a friend of mine. This guy was a kid with me during the Depression. And he had it really tough. And he said the same thing. He said, if I ever have a kid, that kid's going to have everything. An education, the finest schools. And this guy went to work at it. He worked 18 hours a day. He worked in a foundry. And he got married. And sure enough, a year later, they had a little baby girl. Well, as I said, he worked in the foundry, and after he could work at night at the foundry, he'd drive a cab. He worked 18 hours a day, and he saved every cent. And he sent that kid to a little private public, private school, grammar school. When she got out of that, she went to high school. He bought her all the finest clothes, little jewelry with all the money he made. He really worked. Then he sent her to boarding school, and when she got out of college, he used to send her on cruises to South America and the Caribbean, you know, so she'd meet the right people and round out her education. And he worked and worked and worked and worked every minute of his life. Finally, it paid off. She went on a South American cruise, and she came back, and she told her father, she says, Father, she says, I'm marrying a guy named Harry Grove. She said, I met him on this boat. He's a millionaire, and he wants to marry him. Well, I'm telling you, the look on the father's face and the mother's face. And the day of the wedding, they were so proud. They were all dressed up. It was a beautiful wedding. Flowers, big limousines and everything. And after the wedding came off, they went down to the curb and they put their daughter into the limousine with a new husband, and they drove off. And this poor father, who was so tired from working all his life, turned around to his wife and he says, honey, he said, at this minute, I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. She says, Charlie, I'm going to make you even happier. I'm having another baby. A little travel music. Away we go.
A man's home is his castle, and in that castle, he has no greater pleasure than taking an afternoon nap on his day off.
loves a surprise, and tonight, Jackie has a very special surprise for you. One of the finest singers on the musical comedy stage, Larry Douglas.
76 trombones led the big parade, with 110 cornets right behind. There were more than 1,000 reeds springing up like weeds. There were horns of every shape and kind. 76 trombones caught the morning sun, with 110 cornets right behind. There were more than 1,000 reeds springing up like weeds. There were horns of every shape and kind. And so, my friends, I say, wouldn't you like to hear them play? Play it, boys. Yeah, let's hear it. Oh, what music. I defy you not to cheer the very moment that you hear. Now, isn't that bit of the rock and roll? Say, how can you help it when you hear those trumpets blow? Blow, you trumpets. Isn't it great? Play it again. Oh, what a sound. You've got to admit it does something to you. And you can bet your life it'll do something to you. And it doesn't matter whether you're 5, 25, or 105. It's the thrill of a lifetime. I'll show you what I mean. Did you ever stand with a crowd and wait for a big parade to go by? The air is filled with a certain thrill that seems to electrify. When all of a sudden you hear a sound that comes from far away. It's a sound that comes from a dozen drums when they begin to play. Rat-ta-ta, rat-ta-ta, you know they're coming near. Rat-ta-ta, rat-ta-ta, when suddenly you hear... You hear that? You hear that? It's a Yankee Doodle melody that everyone loves, and how? Listen, they're coming closer and closer. Why, you can almost see them now. Closer, here come the baritones and tubas with their own pom-poms. Closer, why, it's the Sousa March they're playing. And brother, here they are. When the music starts to play, you know darn well, hey, you're gonna yell, hey, it's a parade. To play, there is no doubt, say, you're gonna shout, hey, it's a parade! It's simply grand to stand and watch when a band is marching in a big parade with 27 flutes. And while the cymbals clang, there are 30 tenor saxophones and 50 shiny baritones and trumpets, what a gang! And leading the whole shebang are 76 trombones in the big parade with 110 cornets close at hand. They are followed by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos, the cream of every famous band. 76 trombones catch the morning sun. What a wonderful sight to see, I declare. It's 1,000,000 to 1, I'll bet. It's a thrill you can't forget when that kind of music fills the air. Not 71, no, not 72. No, not 72, not 73, not 74, not 75, but 76. 76 trombones. 76. Yeah.
Reginald Van Gleason III has been taking theater audiences by storm with his successful tour of dramatic readings. Tonight we look in on Reginald Van Gleason III at the State Theater in Gomglick, Oklahoma, where he is currently presenting his version of Casey at the Bat.
It looked extremely rocky for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-6 with but an inning left to play. And so, when Cooney died at first and Burroughs did the same, a pallor wreathed the features of the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go, leaving there the rest, with that hope which springs eternal within the human breast. For they thought if only Casey could get a whack at that, they'd put up even money with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, and likewise so did Blake, and the former was a pudding, and the latter was a fake. So that on that stricken multitude a death-like silence sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and the much despised Blakey tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted and they saw what had occurred, there was Blakey safe on second, and Flynn a hugging third. Ugh. Then from the gladdened multitude went up a joyous yell. It bounded from the mountaintop and rattled in the dell. It struck upon the hillside and rebounded on the dell. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his shirt with dust. 5,000 tongues applauded as he wiped the dust upon his shirt. And while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed from Casey's eye, a sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered spear came whistling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From the bleachers black with people, there rose a sullen roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone from the stand. And it's likely that they would have, if Casey had not raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult and bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and again the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two." "Fraud!" yelled the maddened thousands, and the echo answered, "Fraud." But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey would not let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lips. His teeth are clenched with hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. Now the pitcher holds the ball. Now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
tuned for more of The Jackie Gleason Show.
You know, comedy is a very elusive and delicate thing. But everybody wants to be a comedian. You've been at parties where the guy puts the lampshade on his head and runs around. You know, Sam, you do this all the time. Got a whole orchestra puts lampshades on. But everybody wants to be a comedian. So I thought in the second half of our show tonight, I would give a little seminar on comedy. And it's really very simple when you know the little tricks. So I thought tonight that I would give you some of the tricks, and perhaps you won't need the lampshade. Now, the very first thing you have to learn when you're a comedian is the double take. Now, you probably have seen a double take. That's where a guy goes like this. Yes. That's called a double take. Then there are triple takes, where a guy yells out the window, "The safe is coming down." You say, "What, huh? Ooh." Now, there are other double takes, which I'd like to show you. Would you bring out the table, please? Now, thank you. Oh, baby. That's a double take, too. Now, for instance, if you open a box and you look in the box and there's nothing in there, well, that's not too funny. But supposing you have a box like this, and you hold it up, and you... That's called a bug-eye take. Now, there is another take, which I studied for 3 years, which is called the cough take. Now, in this box, for instance, there is a 3-pound wedge of Facciamara's mozzarella cheese. Now, you take the cover off and you give it, oh. That is a cough. Now, if you mind, thank you. Now, there are what we call action takes. For instance, would you mind opening the curtain, please? Now we have 3 type doors here. This one is obviously the door to a dentist's office. And a man comes in great pain, and he wants to be relieved. But watch what happens to him when he hears a little action. Then we have this door here, which is obviously the door into a very high executive office. This is what we call the slow down take. The gentleman that enters this door has been practicing all month how he's going to ask his boss for a raise. And he's got it all figured out. His wife has got him all fired up, but somehow or another he slows down. He does it something like this. All right, Mr. Watson. All right, I'm telling you something right now. I've been working for this office for 9 years. What am I getting? A stinking $63 a week. Well, I gotta have more money. I got a wife and kids. Don't you realize the spot I'm in? Don't you? Listen, I... That the door to the gents' room? Then we have a door that is positively assured of laughs. The door to the maternity ward, when the young father just arrives to find out how the baby is. Nurse, 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 where's the kid? What does it look like? Huh? What do you mean, not 1? 2? 3? 4? 5 kids? I've got 5 kids. I've got 5 kids. 5 kids. I've got 5 kids. door was in a little tight. I have 5 kids and 3 teeth. Another great thing that helps comedy, as well as having a bunch of beautiful girls dancing, the June Taylor dances, plenty of great writers, a fine orchestra, wonderful stage hands, is sound effects. Now, some things are absolutely nothing without sound effects. For instance, nothing, but watch this. Trouble is, I don't know whether that was a sound effect.
Would you bring it out, please?
This is a surefire laugh if you're at a party. Thank you, dear. See you later. This is a surefire laugh. This is called the swallow sound effect. First, you mix a martini. Pour it into the glass. Put in an olive, and then you toast. Another thing is the dance. The dance is nothing without sound effects. For instance, a little music, Sam. Now, with sound effects. With or without sound effects, that's a little strenuous, you know. Now, you wouldn't think that walking across railroad tracks would be humorous. And maybe you're right. Here it is without sound effects. Nothing, but with sound effects. Of course, the Three Stooges had this kind of comedy down to a T. It's called Rough House. Would you mind coming out, please? Thank you, Mr. Gronwald. Now, this means nothing, but this does. Now, if you want to take somebody's nose off, this is the way to do it. If you want to punch somebody in the mouth, there's only one way. That didn't hurt, did it? Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Gronwald.
Mr. Gleason.
Yes?
There's one sound effect you forgot.
I did. And there is what is called surprise comedy. For instance, no greater way to get a laugh than to throw a pie. But it's not as easy as it looks. There are techniques, and I would like to explain a few of them to you. Would you please bring that out, Mildred? Thank you, dear. Just have the small radio. How do you do, Mr. Morgan?
How do you do, sir?
You're looking horrible. Johnny Morgan, as you know, is one of the nation's great comedians, great monologists. It's a strange thing about pie throwing. Throwing an apple pie, or a blueberry pie, or a peach pie, never got a big laugh, no matter how hard they tried. It was always the cream cake. This beauty right here. Look at how it shakes and wobbles. Isn't that a beautiful thing? You have no idea how this relieves you when you throw it. Now, the first of the correct ways of throwing a pie I would like to describe is the push. This is a straightforward, absolutely sure, no miss way of getting a pie to the comic's kisser. Would you mind facing me, please? It's just a slow forward thrust. You turn around and let them see how nice that's done. Notice the beautiful circle of cream going around the face. The waterfall of cream coming down. How it goes through every strand of hair. That's art, friends. Now, the next is the push and grind. This is a sure winner. Would you mind facing me, Mr. Morgan? Notice the bullseye effect. But when all is said and done, the good old toss has always been a favorite for many years and will perhaps remain so. This is done with a follow-through, so as much spray as can take place, the better. Boom! Notice the follow-through. Notice how it seems to go leeward. Just recently, ladies and gentlemen, a new technique was discovered by a comedian in New York City called Soupy Sales. It is called the cymbal crash. Would you mind facing me, please? This is a doozy. Would you mind taking the table off, please? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. I am very sorry that happened. Because there's one thing that you'll never see in a Jackie Gleason show, and that's anybody throwing a pie at the great Gleason. I'll tell you that. Something I know a lot.
This is Johnny Olson speaking for the Jackie Gleason Show. Gowns by Cameo Evening Fashions, jewelry by Wesson of Hollywood, Florida. Tonight's program was pre-recorded.